In the room with you this morning, my name is Eric Latif. We have Nduoko, Wajirugi Konyo, our guest host for the week, and our guest host for the day is Yegon, our listener from Matu.
And
Wajir, and Nandi,
and
Moyale,
voila.
and Nairobi. And he is in the studio with us this morning. Today's proverb as we begin the hour, atakaye kufuga ng'ombe aanze na kuku. One who wants to rear cattle should start with chicken. Start small, grow big. Do not despise small beginnings.
Because a cow, chicken could turn into a cow.
Chicken could turn into a cow. Yeah. A chicken, you learn how to milk a chicken, and then you now know how to milk a cow.
That was my thinking, but
that's where you were, right?
I know I kept quiet because I was like, I don't farm. Maybe this is how it goes. I thought you might be successful with chickens and not with cows, and vice versa. I would have thought it would go one cow and then many cows,
as opposed to two chickens and then one cow.
From chicken, then you migrate to a coat.
Yes.
So that you can remove now the fear of milking, because this coat I can manage even to hold the leg and milk. Before now migrating to the big elephant now.
I'm so glad you raised that question, and I respect that.
Don't suffer alone. Just
as urbanites now, yes.
No, you've caught up.
Yes.
Atakaye kufuga ng'ombe aanze na kuku. Yegon, let's talk politics, because you really are like our in-house political commentator. On matters politics, you always call in and contribute. There are stories all over. One, we know that the president, once he comes back from France, he'll be doing some series of tours around the country.
Yes.
He has to go to Kambani. He's going to Rift Valley.
Yeah.
He's going to dismantle. He's going to tour the country as the president and head of state, right? We've seen the inroads that the deputy president has made in especially Mount Kenya, and a kind of pushback that has been launched by those who are opposed to the deputy president. But still, the progress that DP is making. Recently, we saw the woman rep for Kiamba County crossing over Komwendo wa Aste and saying now she's Tanga Damu and others. Does he really have a chance, the deputy president, in securing a substantial number of votes in Mount Kenya?
Yes, good question, Eric Latif. And I think this is a very interesting topic. Okay, before discussing Mount Kenya, we have to see first what relationship to Mount Kenya have between William Ruto and them themselves first, before now making an inroad towards Mount Kenya. And we can trace back this up to back in 2007. These are brothers who are fighting each other politically. They were competing against each other politically, and we know what happened. Then thereafter, we had a good grand coalition government, which to my view, it was a very successful one. Then the coming of the ICC cases, which also it strengthens the relationship of William Ruto with Mount Kenya. First, we saw when Ruto was mentioned in ICC, he was first dismissed as agriculture minister by the wing, that is the ODM wing, which he had sponsored it to the government. And from there, we saw now former President Mwai Kibaki, who is the son of Mount Kenya, reappointing William Ruto to be the Minister of Higher Education before resigning now when there was someone to appear before the ICC. So the relationship in Mount Kenya and William Ruto is very strong. That is why we have now our other competitors trying to dismantle it. But this is the thing that it is deeply rooted now to the common mwananchi, to the Wanjiku, which we have coined the tag now as a hustler from the crown, who understands who is William Ruto compared to the person who is higher at the up. When we came to 2012, when we were making coalition between URB and TNA, this is whereby we had Musalia Mudavadi, was also to be enjoined in this relationship between Mount Kenya and William Ruto. So what happened from there is that William Ruto was in pole position not to be of much credit to recontest with the son of Mount Kenya for presidency. And he relinquished his position to be a front flag bearer, to be a deputy. So this also cultivated another relationship in between us. And the way Mount Kenya sees William Ruto is a prodigal son who happens to have been in another political wing before them. So when we mended that relationship between DNA and URB, William Ruto started now going inroads to Mount Kenya. And what was ailing mostly wananchi there was about industries. We have church activities. We have local schools, which normally they under the members of parliament. So if we remove the fact that he was going for government projects, he still have some what of his personal things which he did in Mount Kenya. But today we are seeing now a rebellion. That is after the collapse of the formation of Jubilee government. And this is where we might have, I might say that maybe we slipped or we hungered some of the kingpins there. That is during the Jubilee nomination. And some still believe that, or maybe I lost it because of William Ruto. We have one former governor, Kapogo, who is also a kingmaker in Mount Kenya, complaining. So we are now looking on how we can accommodate these people back and mend our relationship. That is the relationship between William Ruto and Mount Kenya. Because this Mount Kenya voting block is very important for William to clinch presidency. Because these are people who have relationship compared to other Asala movement in other parts of the country who exist. So these ones, we see them as the main people, brothers, that we should hold hand.
As a consolidated block.
Yes, we should have an hand first before now going to the other one in the bush.
Can I ask a question? To what extent is Kiamba, post-election violence and the Kiamba issue, a barrier? To what extent? Because I was at a function where there was all kinds of discussions about 2022 and, who has done what. And at the end of the day, the one thing that came out with one of the local politicians is they said, do not forget Kiamba.
I think having now this by-election is in Kiamba is an accidental relationship between what happened in Kiamba in Eldoret. And some politicians have coined the breast that the people who are affected in Kiamba are the ones who are from this Kiamba today. But we believe that Kiamba name is just a relationship. The certainty that we now have Kiamba in Kiambu and we have Kiamba in Eldoret. But there is no relationship. It's only that now the political environment and the political competitors are just coining the word. Because initially, yes, we might accept that the founder of Kiamba might have migrated from Kiamba.
But does what happened there bear any kind of political significance to now what we are talking about now in terms of Deputy President wanting to then gain this camaraderie again with Central Kenya? Does what happened there bear any significance still today?
And even before you answer and link to that, Kiamba also has historical significance because it was also the site of some very strong anti-Mau Mau activity. And so he brought this whole thing in. So in the psyche of Mount Kenya, is that Kiamba narrative a factor?
Now, I will refuse to take this Kiamba as a factor. Main reason is the main culprits or the victims who understand what happens in Kiamba are the hustlers on the ground. There is a common mwananchi at the ground who knows that what happened in Kiamba was not initiated by this person, whom now the politicians are using it to coin and paraphrase it, that it links together. So those whom we have today in Kiamba, those who will be voting are the hustlers at the common mwananchi, whom if he or she has a relative in Kiamba, knows what exactly happens. Other than the utterance that we put in quotes that the person who infiltrated what happened in Kiamba is this person. So there is some inner truth from the common man at the ground.
Or they might not know, but there is, like you say, the inner truth. What do they believe?
Yes, so they
What do they hold happen? Because the dominant narrative has been linking Kiamba to the DP and or his people. That has been the facts didn't come out. Even ICC couldn't uncover the facts because witnesses disappeared and all of that. But there is what people believe.
In the court of public opinion.
Yes, in the
who's
court
responsible for post-election violence in Rift Valley?
now,
And is it still one
An
of
issue.
the underlying issues?
for the person who was not affected with the post-election violence, or who was not in Rift Valley, knows that because he or she has been breathed the gospel that the person who was responsible was a DB, and he or she might have a fact to support it, because if you try to question, he or she can ask you, then why was he summoned to ICC? But now we at the Mwananchi who was in Kiamba knows that this election violence was a spontaneous reaction from the people, which it affected those who were at the ground, perceived to have been alienated to the other side. Because today you might be shocked that in 2007 we had even councillors from Kiamba, a councillor from Kiamba who was in ODM. So there is no perceived history, even the results of Kiamba. There is nowhere which shows that the majority of Kiamba voters voted for PNU. So this was a spontaneous eruption that only attacked to the person because the people of Kiamba had relationship with the president, Biden Mwai Kibaki. So there was a narrative that for me, Yegon, since I am a Kalenjin, I must vote for William Ruto. So even if I'm in Ukambani and I voted for any other person, there is that tag that no, this belongs to such a political way because of the tribal name. But the person who at the crown knows that this was not the cause.
There's also maybe the possibility of what has happened since then in terms of the coming together of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto and the campaigns, the joint campaigns that they conducted in these two regions. First in the North Rift and in the Mount Kenya region, and selling that whole message of, we have come together now. Let's see how we can move from that point going forward. The other narrative, and I want to raise this, is during this time of the second term of Uhuru, is the voter in Mount Kenya feeling that they are betraying the work that was done by William Ruto in campaigning for the Uhuru ticket when Ruto seems to be now being sidelined? Could that also be a factor? That's, because we have heard that many times. No. He did not abandon us. We cannot abandon him.
Now, from the this narrative of being betrayed or not betrayed also still resonates with the person at the ground level. And we have those who are the public opinion that the only thing which it might make me today to vote for William Ruto is because he was with Uhuru. But to us, we are not seeing that as a sign of betrayal. Because if we take it as a sign of betrayal, it is like we are now making them that it is a compulsory for you to pay back us. But now we are not taking the issue of William Ruto supporting Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013 and 2017. We are seeing the relationship between William Ruto and the people of Mount Kenya, those who are at the grassroots, the relationship of William Ruto with the leaders of Mount Kenya. So this is what something which we are going to take it, not as a sign of you must pay us, the way our opponents are perpetrating it. That's why last time you hear another one saying, "Atuna 10." And even our deputy president came out telling us, I don't owe anybody. And indeed, there is no any debt that we have in Mount Kenya. The only thing that we are campaigning we are having a candidate who has a strong relationship with Mount Kenya.
Yegon, when you say we, who is we?
We now, I take this time as we the people who support William Ruto.
Okay.
It's
Yes,
good
yes.
to be clear on
Yes.
this position.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, you, the people who support William Ruto. Now, just looking at, because widespread, because we cannot run away from the reality that there are those who, they're supporters on both sides, or even all four sides, or however many sides that there are. Are you looking at it as an absolute importance or critical that the support from central Kenya for William Ruto is grounded, is held onto in order for him to progress? Is it absolutely necessary to have that support from them, from central Kenya?
Yes, do. Mount Kenya is a very is an important voting block for William Ruto to be president. Today, from the statistics which we have taken, is that for William Ruto to be president, we need around 80% support from Mount Kenya. The entire Mount Kenya, that is East and the upper part. But we don't have so much problem from Mount Kenya East, because I was in a burial somewhere in Embu, and you can still see now, no, we are still standing with your son. Though the other guys want to. And this comes from a common mwananchi. And even the politicians, if you see the politicians from Mount Kenya East, there is no one who is putting an acid test to William Ruto candidates. So the issue now is retaining this Mount Kenya, the others,
West.
the central region. Let me put to the central region.
The home base.
The home
proper.
base of President Kenyatta.
Yes, and then hustler narrative.
Now,
one is, how is the DP a hustler, and how is his hustler similar to Juakali? Because the DP's history as a hustler is a very privileged hustler with access to a lot of political power. When with Cyrus Jorongo, Youth for Kano?
Yep. 92.
You know,
Yes, YK 92.
yeah, YK 92. How is he a hustler? And is he not exploiting the hustler who has been marginalized by the policies of the government that he was a part?
And now we have here, today we have an hustler movement, and we have UDA as party. So these are two different things. We have an hustler movement, that's an hustler narrative, and we have the party, UDA, though it has an identity which we use the wheelbarrow as a symbol for an hustler. Now, how William Ruto resonates with a common hustler, despite the fact that he's not an hustler, is because this person recognizes that the humble beginnings of a common person, right from the ground. He resonates from the people, those who are in Juakali industry, those who are in Mamamboga. And we have seen this before, that you can find William Ruto doing an impromptu visit of buying my Ndichoma from a mama around, and even buying the machines to the common person or a motorbike. So these things which he is distributing resonates with a common hustler, that person at the ground,
So he
who wants to
so-
be empowered.
So-
So now he's coming here as an hustler ambassador.
Oh, okay.
So when you are an ambassador, it doesn't mean that you have to be in that shoes, but you understand what you are.
How come he started understanding now?
No.
Even beyond that, Yegon, maybe he understands, right? But then with the position that he has had, I can resonate with your position, and it's just we can resonate until the cows come. Let's just be resonating where we are.
Maybe.
But then in terms of in his position and with what he had in terms of the tools of power, what has he then been able to do to remove these individuals from this hustler
Is
position?
he exploiting those that are economically marginalized? Because under the bromance, and you can say William Ruto has benefited from the bromance, because that period they campaigned together, he was exposed, he's seen as enabling Uhuru Kenyatta's ascension into power. We agree to that. But at that point when they were doing joint policies, what did he do for this hustler?
Maybe Wanjiru, you have started knowing William Ruto today. But I can take you back up to 2005. when William Ruto was in limelight as then Eldoret North MP. And we had Katiba by Nakafman, which it was not resonating to the Asala to the common mwananchi. If you ever read that draft of 205, it had a lot of amendments which it was not favoring the common person. And William Ruto was in the side, though he was in opposition, but still he manages to be in a part that was opposing to that Katiba, which it was disempowering and recognizing a common person. So the issue here today is, yes, we had the common policies which we were doing during when we were campaigning, and one of the policies we had the youth fund. Youth fund was an initiative to empower a common man at the crown, but the procedures of making this work or for a common person to benefit at the crown didn't work because of the policies and those who are in the ministry. So even before then, we cannot question that. Why now? He has been there before.
Yeah, but don't say opposing 2005. Don't mention Katiba with William Ruto because you're on shaky ground. He also opposed 2010 Katiba.
Yeah.
But
So he has a history of opposing Katiba. I don't even know what the ideological position was in opposing the Katiba. He opposed it.
Yegon, one of our listeners, is in the studio today. He's our guest host. We are talking about the hustler movement and whether the hustler movement can actually gain ground in the country, not just in the country. Let's start with Mount Kenya region. Some of the comments that are coming in on social media, Andy Njuguna says, Ruto will not get the whole block if Uhuru does not back him. So the Mount Kenya block is divided and will not be of help to any candidates. Evan says, Spice FM, when you say Ruto, don't just think of Ruto as a name. Ruto is a symbol of the common mwananchi, the hustler, the mamamboga, and every hustler out there. Let us not say Ruto is retaining Mount Kenya. Let's say hustlers are maintaining Mount Kenya. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. In the room is Eric Latif, Nduoko, Wanjiru Gikonyo, and Yegon, one of our listeners who is a medical professional and who's in the studio, and he says he's a self-declared hustler, supporter of William Ruto. We are talking the William Ruto factor in Mount Kenya and then the William Ruto factor in the 2022 general election. So you're saying that Ruto had started building his base and positioning himself as somebody who is championing for the common man. So now when we see him championing for the common man today, we shouldn't be questioning, but where have you come from? So let's talk about in that period, 2013 to 2017, where even he says that he was actively involved in governing the country. Did we see policies and programs rolled out by the government that we could say the hustler benefited from? And can we count them?
Thank you, Eric. Between 2013 to 2017, William Ruto was the chief. He was in the chief docket of delivery for the Jubilee government. That is, he was the one overseeing the government projects. And from this, we can see the project like for the last mile connectivity. That is under rural electrification. The most people who benefited from that last mile connectivity were people from the Ambo background. Most houses that were connected were the people who are in Mashinan who had been forgotten. Number two, if you see the infrastructure, for example, for roads, there are some sites whom they could not access tarmac roads because they were in rural remotes. But during this tenure, the Jubilee government, under the leadership of now Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto as the chief in delivery, we oversee many projects, many tarmac roads going towards the rural areas in the setup that is in Mount Kenya. In fact, all of we cannot say Mount Kenya alone. We can say all over the country before being taken charge by another person.
But Yegon,
But they've continued.
yeah.
But the question is, the ones that directly benefit. You see, right now, during this campaign, the deputy president is calling and meeting up with the hustlers and talking several things. He started by, first of all, showing hustler direct empowerment All right. So you're doing small business. I'm going to empower you. I'm going to give you the wheelbarrow to carry your fruits and vegetables. I'm going to give you the sewing machine. I'm starting you up. During that time when he had direct control of the delivery of government, what did he do? Can we say that there was increased access to finance for small business people? Can we say that there was increased access to market for small-scale farmers? Can we say that there was increased access for the youth to get into small businesses, into agriculture? Can we say that agriculture received financing to help it develop?
And let me even add to that question. For instance, when Ngilu was health minister, Ngilu came out and said it didn't work then, but said universal health.
Yep.
And it was the policy that she was willing to, it marked her tenure there because she had ascended to a position of power and she had a rallying call. So you can say she had the heart of the majority to have access. What has William Ruto done when he has had access to power? Because, for instance, those roads you're talking about, many tarmac roads and all, that is county government. Just because the Jubilee came in at a time of devolution. Major roads are the responsibility of the national government. The county level roads and those ones that go up to the village, that is county government. So that one, if they happened under the tenure of Jubilee, is not the track record of either Uhuru Kenyatta or the deputy president. So what is it that has marked his time, even in opposition or in government, for the hustler?
Now, back to you, Wanjiro and Eric Latif. You know, today we are trying to separate William Ruto, who was in government, actively in government between 2013 to 2017. When these people were intact and working hand in hand, consoling each other. So the policies which was running on from 2013 to 2017 were policies which it was made by these two people when they were assuming power, when they were campaigning. So the part of this universal health care we are talking today, the part of creating
the Big Four agenda.
Yes, the Big Four came just the other day. Creating the funds, like we had the women fund, we have the youth fund. So these structures were put in place by the people who were in the same government. And they were working together to deliver those promises to the common man for the sake of re-election in 2017.
Okay, youth fund was there before. It started during the Kibaki time. The Uruto time came with the Uwezo Fund, which is what they were saying. If you guys vote overwhelmingly for us in the first round, the money that could have been spent going to second round election, we're going to put it into this fund. Uwezo Fund was born. Now, give me the benefits of Uwezo Fund to the hustler, those 5 years.
Now, during these 5 years, a lot of procedural ways of getting the Uwezo Fund came out with difficulties. In fact, the common man, the hustlers were being asked to form some groups and to form circles, which at the end of the day, they were being fed. So the allocation of the money during that time was not enough. That is why out of maybe 30 groups who have applied for Uwezo Fund or Youth Fund, you could find that 10 groups were going to get the allocation. But these were rotational, because if there's a certain group gets during this financial year, the other financial year, they were going to receive it. So these things were involved. William Ruto was being involved. There's no way you can separate that from him.
Now, if you can't separate, these 5 years have seen the worst corruption in those very projects you said. Infrastructure, those, especially the infrastructure docket, national infrastructure, levels of corruption never seen before. We are in a debt crisis because of the policies of those 5 years. So actually, William Ruto, together with Uhuru Kenyatta, have committed economic crimes against the people of Kenya, because today we can't afford to hire police, we were saying. We can't afford to transfer money to the counties.
Even the universal health care, I'm just going to even stick on that. The universal health care that we are talking about, whether, a part of the agenda, something that came up before, we saw it today. 1 billion shillings cannot be accounted for. Just one example from one ministry, 1 billion shillings cannot be accounted for. These are policies. So when you share the success, they say, you also share the failure.
He
Because
was
if he
in
was
charge
part
of
of it-
delivery.
but
he
I-
was
I-
in
I am-
charge
I
of
am-
delivery.
I am
Was
very-
he also in charge of the corruption?
There's some people within government that stand out for doing a certain thing in a certain way. And here we are. I mean, this is a serious thing. And it doesn't matter who it is. And I will ask the same question of anybody who comes out and say they want to be president of a country. What is it that you have been able to do that will now give the impetus to anybody who is going to vote to say, I can see what you have done. And based on this, I want to give you another chance to do even better. And that is my question. What is it that has been done? Clearly, and even if it's just one.
Today in Duo, today, yes, during 2013 to 2017, Jubilee government, we have a lot of cases of corruption. But today, those cases are still in the court. And the law doesn't allow the president to prosecute the perpetrators. We have seen the hard work of the president, even increasing the money to the EACC, increasing the funding to the DCI. But the end result still lies to the courts. So today we cannot blame. Yes,
You can't blame the courts
No,
for
we have-
corruption. The corruption took place. So the point is, the courts that are underfunded by the Jubilee government, the police that is not able to generate evidence, those are problems. But the corruption took place. The borrowing to fund corruption took place. We are paying today. So we are talking about this 5-year period when Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto mismanaged the economy, promoted a lot of corruption. Their lieutenants that were put in Ministry of Finance fleeced the Treasury. So how can he separate himself from that?
from here we can look at what is the role of the deputy president in power. He has no hand in making sure that so and so can be prosecuted. He can have a say or advise the president on what to do.
But you told us he was in charge of delivery.
Yes, when you are in charge of delivery, it is like today when I ask you to deliver this phone to Eric Latif. So obviously, or you will make sure that it will be delivered. But the process of delivery doesn't lie under his docket. There were some ministries and the procedures and even the protocol, even the procurement or procuring those infrastructure that later came in with a lot of big losses. But at the end of it all, yes, we saw the project. The projects were completed. Some are under...
Many white elephants.
Yes, but it was completed. But inside it, we still have the issue of inflated price or the corruption.
Outright corruption.
Yes. So this person was in charge of just to deliver, make sure, oversee, is the work going on, not how much has been spent. Because right now, today...
Now you've demoted him from head of delivery to head of overseeing.
Overseeing and delivery is just the
You know,
same.
Yegon, as we have this conversation, we are obviously cognizant of the fact that you do not speak for William Ruto. You are not in the William
Yes.
Ruto campaign. You're not in the deputy presidency. You are a hustler and a supporter of William Ruto. So the questions that we are asking are, of the supporters of William Ruto, what is it that you say, you know what, I will vote for this person, I will die with this person. Wherever he goes, I will be standing there with him. Okay? So we are not basically putting you on the spot and saying, no, but what did you... We're having a conversation among voters, amongst voters. Now, as a hustler, as the person who sees and has understood, this is what William Ruto represents. This is what William Ruto is proposing to do if given the overall authority of being president, chief executive, and head of state of the country. What is it that you see he's going to be able to do different from what he has been able to do as cabinet minister, rising to deputy president, and now when he has the sword, what is it that he's going to do different?
That is the wrong question, Eric. And it's the question we keep asking of our leaders. What will they do different? Our leaders have shown us they do exactly what they do. They don't do different. We asked what will Uhuru Kenyatta do different from the person who he was. Uhuru Kenyatta has come and he's exactly the person who he was. People asked, what will Sonko do different? Sonko came and did jeshi yake aliingiza into the... So the better record, the better question to hustlers is, what has William Ruto done and what are you expecting him to do based on that? Because
We've already
if
asked-
Kebuda,
we've- the first-
if
the
Kebuda
past-
Kibwana...
The past 15 minutes, Wanjiru, just to cut you short, because it's my question. The first 15 minutes we were asking, what has William Ruto done? And the hustler has been trying to respond to us what he has seen William Ruto do. Now, the question that I'm asking is, now that you're saying, you know, there are these things that he was able to do, but then there was a tag. He was just a minister. He was only a deputy president. How different do you expect him to be when he becomes president?
That's a better...
Now, for me as an hustler and a supporter of William Ruto, I see William Ruto when he was agriculture minister, what he did. And during that time, when he was the Minister of Agriculture, though he had the maize scandal,
How come these scandals tend to follow William Ruto? He's so unfortunate.
so
Wherever he goes.
Even though we had an issue of maize scandal, we can say that the prices of fertilizer was fair to the mwananchi. The price of getting seeds were fair to mwananchi. The overall prices of agriculture commodities, even our polytechnics being equipped, not the actual polytechnics, these agricultural polytechnics like Kapete, Nyahururu, they were equipped during the time of William Ruto, and two were added. So we have seen that he was now in charge of a docket which he has to prove, and the policies belongs to him and the government. But he was the one to implement it. Secondly, when he came to Ministry of Higher Education, he lowered the chap entry from 67 points to around 49. It was not just today like Siblas. And we added more campuses. Even though at the end of the day, the award went to the then immediate now Minister Saleh Koske. But the work which was done in the Ministry of Higher Education was the work of William Ruto.
He also introduced the focus on STEM sciences.
Yes.
Reduced funding for arts.
Yes, because normally...
Reduced funding for arts. And this is maybe, it was a government policy at the time, but one of the issues we have with the education system, because it's important to focus on sciences, is the focus on the arts was removed. The focus on technical was on paper but was not resourced. So he was pursuing a very elitist line, because when you're focusing on sciences, you're actually saying formal education, engineers, doctors, scientists, those are the people who will drive the country. He didn't focus on the common mwananchi. And he didn't focus also on a majority of people who go into the arts.
But now, who is the beneficiary of inventions of the science part? It is the common person. Everything for manufacturing, industrialization, that the person who will benefit most was the common person. There was no need for us to have arts, because currently we don't need a revolution.
Now, good. Those are the words, by the way, of William Ruto at the time, because he said there are some degree courses, sociology, anthropology. These are a waste of time.
If you see at the first world countries, the developed countries like China, Germany, they have invested in sciences.
But they invest.
We are no longer in now the agrarian revolution to invest more on arts.
I think that's an academic conversation that can be had by
is
various
it academic,
people. By
or
various
is it the
people.
philosophy?
No. Yes, the same. We can have a whole show on the importance of investing on both. He also introduced a lot of focus and push towards TVETs, which is what now has also been carried over into TVETs. Let me come back to my question, because I'd like it answered. Show me or illustrate to me a difference if William Ruto is called Your Excellency President William Ruto, CGH. How is it that you and the fellow hustlers are seeing this country is going to look this way because William Ruto will have the reins of power?
The hustler movement and the hustlers gaining the narrative, the policy of William Ruto that now we have to start from the bottom-up economic approach. And this is the person now we can trust that if he's given this power, because this is his own policy that he wants to implement. This is like now implementing a Big Four agenda. So the policy now is a bottom-up economic approach.
And it is only when he becomes president that he can do this.
Yes.
Because the question is, Yegon, truth be told, that if it is truly, and it's possible, that a policy may have just come up, we've thought about it and said, okay, this is actually what can actually help the nation. But the question for me remains, when you had this much power, when you had this much influence, when you had this position, why then was this not introduced? Or are we waiting for the time when you will be given now those instruments of power that will now say, okay, let's deal in an economy that has a bottom-up approach? Why not?
Can I
why
also
has
add
this
to that?
not started before?
Because our constitution gives us a bottom-up approach. It's called devolution. When URP was campaigning, they were the devolution arm of Jubilee.
Yes.
They were the champions. When they got in, they fought devolution from the word go. Why? There was a political competition between the Rutos, the COG head and William Ruto. So because of this political fighting, counties were starved of money, resources. Even in parliament, Murkomen, who is a brilliant lawyer, and also a champion of devolution, he became a stumbling block to devolution. So I put it to you that William Ruto's interest in politics is stronger than his commitment to bottom-up development.
No.
Because when he had the chance, he was a barrier to the implementation, to the transfer of money and to strengthening that bottom-up approach.
Today, I can say that William Ruto was never a barrier. Because according to me, if you compare the position of deputy president right now and that of vice president before, I still believe that the position of vice president was powerful. Reason is this: vice president had a ministry to run off, like the Ministry of Home Affairs, and he was also the personal assistant to the president. So he used to do work assigned by the president, and on the back end, he has a role to play. Today, the position of the deputy president relies on the wishes of the president himself.
Even in
so are you
parliament,
saying that
even
that,
with his
that
political...
has not then allowed him to
So,
do the things that
allow
we are
me finish
saying
here.
he should have done?
Allow me to finish something. You were asking me now, why did this person did not implement the bottom-up approach?
Why did
So
he prevent, not
if-
implement? Why did he become a barrier in the Senate, which is supposed to protect devolution? They were in charge of the devolution committee. And in that position, actually, Jubilee senators had to stand up against the chair of the devolution committee to refuse some of the amendments that would have weakened devolution. Why did URP betray the cause of devolution when they got to the House?
Now, there was, if you can remember history between 2013 to 2014, the money dispersed to the counties was dispersed at the right time. And there were no shortage. But what happened to the governors? The governors could not account for the money which they were being dispersed to the county level. Now, when the Auditor General came up with the report in 2015, the county governments could not account for the lost money. So the governments was the national government now was like, how can be with dispersing funds which the county government cannot articulate or they cannot relay what they did with it. So that is why now at the Senate there were amendments passed by Murkomen so that we can cap. In fact, some of the amendments was to allow even the governors to be the signatory of the finance being default to the county level, and they were refusing. They were saying that this is not the work. So if today we can say why did the barrier existed, it's because of the counter checking. You cannot be sending some resources which it cannot be accounted for.
It was about accountability.
It was about accountability.
We have with us in the studio one of our listeners, Yegon, who is a hustler and is a supporter of Deputy President William Ruto's presidential bid next year. He's been telling us why he thinks Ruto has a chance and why he thinks that Ruto then should also be supported by his fellow hustlers.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.